this episode of Leaders Connect, One Voice Africa paid a visit to one of the foremost leaders of Nigeria's democracy. He has been at the forefront in the battle for the soul of Nigeria's democracy and was sentenced to life imprisonment by a military junta for the same. He is Senator Shehu Sani. Senator Shehu Sani is an author, a playwright, and a human rights activist. He is the president of Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria and the chairman of Hand in Hand Africa. He was a leading figure in the struggle for the restoration of democracy in Nigeria. He has been arrested and jailed by successive past military regimes in Nigeria. He was released from life imprisonment when democracy was restored in Nigeria in 1999. After a couple of trials at the poll, Senator Shehu Sani was elected senator to represent Kaduna Central Senatorial District in 2015, and on the 4th of September that same year, he became the first and only Nigerian senator to declare his assets publicly. Senator Shehu Sani is known for his activism and struggle for human rights. He was first detained in 1993 by the regime of General Babangida. His offense then was that he advocated for the revalidation of results of June 12 and 1993 presidential election won by late Chief MKO Abiola. He was arrested again and again under different leaders for his struggle against military dictatorship, democracy, and human rights. He was arrested under Chief Ernest Shonekan and General Sani Abacha. Before his several incarcerations, Senator Shehu Sani co-founded the Movement for Unity in Progress, among many others. He is renowned for providing human rights campaign support to the poor and the disadvantaged. He is one Nigerian who is not afraid to speak to power in his struggle for the common man. This has earned him a reputation of being a foremost controversial political figure, and he has made certain very important statements recently that has caused many reactions across the country. In this episode of Leaders Connect, our focus is on the impact of his leadership style and legacy. Let's hear from Senator Shehu Sani himself.
Thank you for having me in your program for the first time. Well, I have all along, throughout my life, been an activist. And by an activist, I mean one who is pursuing a cause, and that cause is the cause of justice, freedom, and democracy for my country. And we started early, right from our days in the tertiary institution. And then we became the dominant force in the struggle for democracy, which was the struggle against military rule in the 90s. For that struggle, we paid a dear price because there are some of us who lost their lives. There were those of us who went to jail, and were others who were forced into exile. I happen to be among those who went to jail, not just jail, but went through the period of trial, conviction, and spent many years in prison. It was a price we paid to restore democracy in our country. Now, we made a tragic mistake in 1999 by not participating in partisan politics. And that made it possible for some political forces who were not part of the struggle. They took the opportunity of the transition program and took over power. So they emerged as governors, senators, reps, members of state assembly. And by that time, we were still thinking that democracy may not last. But fortunately for Nigeria, it lasted. And by the time we realized that the political class that took over power don't have the interests of the people at heart and have not paid any price in the struggle for democracy, and don't have the master plan to transform this country. You see, in South Africa, after the struggle against apartheid, the ANC transformed into a political party, took over power, and Mandela became the president. That's what we're supposed to have done. After the struggle, we get into partisan politics and make a person like Ghani the president of Nigeria. But unfortunately, we failed. And by the time many of us realize that it's only by participating in the political arena that we can realize those ideals, those dreams, those principles we stood for, it was late. Many of us tried to be governors, some tried to be senators, some tried to be state assembly, but the political space was dominated by the political class. And as such, I contested in 2003, and I wasn't able to make it. I was in Alliance for Democracy, and AD was in the party that was dominant in the Southwest, with Bola Tinubu being the leader. So that was our party. And later, I tried to contest again in 2011 under Congress of Progressive Change. And then I still couldn't make it as a senator. And then in 2015, I contested under APC and I won. So my participation in politics, first of all, is to serve my people and my country from the political realm. And with the levers of power, I believe that all that we have been fighting and struggling for will be realized and implemented. So that is what informed my participation in politics. But there are two different things. Activism is a field you have been powered by ideals and principles and universal principles of human rights, the Constitution, and the rule of law. These are all the fundamentals of human rights. And it was a struggle. But politics is a completely different ballgame. In activism, you are with people whom you share the same ideals, but not in politics. You have to inconvenience yourself by either getting yourself to be accommodated by people whom you don't share anything in common, or making people whom you don't share anything in common to accommodate them, or you be in the midst of people whom you share very little in common. And it is also a field that is not as straight as activism. So this is the fundamentals of my participation in politics. Well, you see, people, especially Nigerians, we always appreciate the struggle of South Africans for independence against apartheid rule. But many people don't come back to ask themselves who were our own equivalents of people who fought for this democracy. Yes. They said democracy in Nigeria started from 1999. But before that 99, what happened? Many people who are today occupying political power were unknown entities before 99. This democracy is a product of our struggle and sacrifice. Just like a woman give birth to a child, after 9 months of pregnancy, you just see a child and you say it's a cute child. You don't think of the pains she passed through, the sleepless nights, the fever, the stress, the torture she underwent. So people see democracy, but they have to ask themselves, how did this come into being? From 1983, when Shagari was overthrown, to 1999, what happened within those periods? There was no democracy under military rule. Who were those who fought for it? What was the price they made? And have we appreciated them as a country? Everyone talks of Abiola. Abiola became the symbol of our struggle because at the last years of the struggle, he was a man from the bourgeoisie political class who now offered himself as a sacrificial lamb for democracy in this country. When his election was annulled, he now joined the battle for democracy. Because if his election was not annulled and he became the president, there wouldn't have been struggle. But when his election was annulled, most of the members of political class, they abandoned him. It was the human rights activists, the civil society, the labor, the media, the intelligentsia of Nigerian society are the ones who took up the battle that led to the exit of military rule. Within that period, we led the resistance against the overthrow. Now, when I compare what happened at that time to now, I just shake my head. Before we organize any strike, we have to meet overnight in the night or protest, leave our homes, pack our bags, meet at a certain point. Remember, at that time there is no smartphones, no WhatsApp. We use leaflet, we use physical contact and reach out. And they organize protests. No WhatsApp group, no Telegram, no Twitter, no Facebook, no nothing. But we organized resistance. And at that time, it's not like now, where young people will assemble a unity fountain and they will have laptops and cell phones and they'll be telecasting live and the police will be following them to National Assembly to protest or to wherever it is. And then sometimes they will even be snapping photos with the police. It doesn't happen that way. Our people will be thoroughly beaten and many people will never be seen. That was the war, the battle we fought. I was picked up from my home in Kaduna sometimes around 1994, 95. And I never came back to my house until 4 years after. I went through the period of, I was taken from Kaduna straight to Lagos and deposited in Kirikiri prison. Brought out from the jail, taken to a military tribunal and sentenced to life imprisonment after about 8 months of trial. From there, I was transferred from Kirikiri prison to Port Harcourt prison. I was in Port Harcourt prison when Kensari was killed. He was hanged. From that prison, taken to Aba prison in Abia State. But that was even what happened under Abacha. Before then, under Babangida, I don't know how many times I've been to police cell, SSS, whatever. So at the end, we were released when Abacha died and Salam took over. So you can see that it's just like people who fought a war. When they see someone calling for a war, they just shake it because they doesn't know what a war is all about. So now as we are here, you can't lecture us about democracy. You can't talk to us. Because you are a governor, you are this, you are that. We ask you, where were you when we were in the trenches? So in the last 24 years, you have a lot of people who emerge as godfathers. Simply because you have control of state power, the resources. You can make this person a senator, remove this person, make this one a governor, so because of that, you are a lord. You didn't know. People fought for this democracy. Without the democracy, you couldn't have had a godfather. That is why some of us, in everything we do, we recall the journey we came through. And we believe that this democracy has a duty to succeed, because if it collapses, it will collapse on the heads of each and every one of us. And the political class are not doing what they need to do because they don't know, they have not paid any price. If you have been in jail with handcuffs, beaten, starved of food in the struggle, All those people you see with port bellies as governors, as ministers, as members, as reps, as people who call themselves godfathers controlling territory and money of Nigeria, we just shake our head. Where were you? Where were you during Abacha? Where were you during Babangida's time? Where were you when Kensarua was hanged? Where were you when we were in jail? You were nowhere. They are just vultures, beneficiaries of the sweat and sacrifice of sacrifices of. Well, you see, if you want to be a good politician, as it is, you have to be hypocritical to yourself by conforming to the establishment. Hear no evil, see no evil. And what matters to you is to retain power. Many people you see there who are repeatedly been in National Assembly are there not because people have voted for them, but because those people who control power, they are serving the interests of them. Until we have a political system where you can contest election in any political platform and win. But the political system has been so corrupted and bastardized. Political parties collect money to give you tickets. Delegates are paid money for tickets. That is it. You share foodstuffs, fabrics, and money to electorates to vote for you. Do you call this a democracy? Look at what's happening in West Africa. From Guinea to Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Gabon, democracy has crashed. And it's all about elections. It's all about governance. When you suffocate the democratic process where people cannot emerge, contest election and win freely, you will bring the whole roof down. That is it. Nigeria's democracy is so suffocated now, been asphyxiated. You can't win elections in a free and fair contest. If you win, somebody can go to court, manipulate the court, and take over your mandate. I don't know how, with this kind of system, how will our democracy continue to survive? It reached a point even, people who are in the position of authority, when leaving office, they plant their children and their wives. So the democracy is even becoming hereditary itself. So for me, I can say that when I was at the National Assembly, I know that I didn't go to National Assembly as a banker or an engineer or whatever. I went there as an activist. And I said to my creator, my only prayer is that let me be known after power with what I was known before I went into that office. I don't want a situation to say, before he was elected, he was an activist. And after he was elected, he abandoned activism and then he is back to it now. Nobody will say that I went to the National Assembly and became something different from what I was. And I'm here now. I served for 4 years in National Assembly. I know that the difference between a former senator and a serving senator is just a question of time. Everyone you see occupying position of authority is a former. Maybe some will be former earlier than you. Every person you watch in TV, you see in the House of Representatives, is going to be a former. It's either you're going to die, they put late before your name, or a former late. You can be in National Assembly from 1999 to 2023. but you're not going to die there. So you either be late senator or former. And there is no two former, it is still one former they will use for you, no matter how long you stay there. So my own is that you are there, you make effective use of the opportunity, impact on the lives of people, and always remind yourself that just like life, power is transient and temporary. And then when you do that, you will now have the opportunity to serve your people. You see, whoever is elected into the National Assembly as a member of House of Reps or Senator or even State Assembly, there are certain privileges that are given to him or her. You have the salary, you have the running costs, you have the constituency project, and then you have official vehicles. Now, it's not only the senators or reps that are given official vehicles. Judges have official vehicles. Ministers have official vehicles. Head of department and agencies of government all have official vehicles. But people know that of the National Assembly because it's the most transparent of all the institutions where you can walk in. You see the number of people that walk into National Assembly every day. You can only compare it to the market. So naturally people will know. Every member of National Assembly is being given a vehicle. But let me make this clarification. First of all, the vehicles are not free. You'll be paying instrumentally, but they are actually subsidized. Secondly, the problem we have with those allocations is that they are given every 4 years. So if you are elected since 1999 to 2003, it means every 4 years you are going to have a new vehicle. So you see, the system has to take cognizance of the fact that we are a developing country and we should cut the cost of governance. There is no way a legislator will be given an SUV Toyota that can last for 20 years, but to say every 4 years he will be giving another one, that one is wrong. But now let's look at it. This season is a special one for the country. The government of Nigeria withdrew petroleum subsidy. Inflation jacked up, rising cost of living. People cannot pay school fees of their children. They can't pay the rent of their children. They can't buy food to eat because things have gone out of hand. Now the point is, the question people are asking is, when the poor were told to make sacrifices, why not also the rich and people highly persuaded also make sacrifices? It was a wrong time for the National Assembly to do that, especially looking at the situation which you. Someone will say, but during your time you have it. But during our time we have it, but there was subsidy. And people can afford things better. But now this is the most unusual moment in the history of Nigeria. So I read somewhere where the Labour Party issued a statement calling on its legislators to reject the vehicles. That's a patriotic statement, but nobody is going to reject it. Everyone will collect his vehicle. So I believe that if we are going to address this matter, we'll have to holistically, across the board, cut the cost of governance. You see one minister with 9 to 10 vehicles. The DSS are behind him. The police are there. The civil defense are there. The ambulance are there. the fire brigade are there. All these services are all behind one minister. The minister that's supposed to simply move along with his driver and one orderly to the office is being followed by 7 to 8 vehicles. This is a developing country. Look at what happened to the British Prime Minister. He moved from his house to the parliament with only him and his driver. You hardly see even a policeman behind the prime minister. So when we say that we are a big country, but how big are we apart from population? Do we have the resources to waste in that at that level? We have to cut the cost of governance. I watched a clip where the Zambian president, the serving Zambian president, was raising a point when he was told to buy a new vehicle for his office. He said he cannot. And he said each vehicle costs at least $200,000. And if you are going to use $200,000 for every legislator or parliamentarian, as in Zambia, you are going to construct 1,000 boreholes for the people in that area. 1,000. See what life is, how many lives that will change. But in Nigeria, it's not the case. Once you assume office as a governor of a state, your own Babalao Umalam will tell you, change the furnitures, because all the furnitures have been sprinkled with all sort of jazz. That will be, so change the furnitures, very expensive furniture, have to be taken out. Change the vehicle in the government house, because many things have been planted into it. And as Africans, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian, you must believe that. If you refuse to believe it, it will be your wife or your children or your own relations that will tell you, please do that. You say, no, I'm a Muslim, I will never believe. Say, do that. They will give you a typical example of how somebody took over office and died. So vehicles have to be changed. Furnitures have to be changed. The house has to be renovated, irrespective of whether it was Julius Berger that constructed it or not. You either have to invite the beggar to do it again. This is the way we live. And where is the resources? All the states in Nigeria depends on government patronage, directly or indirectly. Most of the states cannot pay salary without federal allocation being sent to them. It is on the federal allocation that all this embezzlement misuse that comes in, their IGR is very low. When you ask some states, why are you not making money? They say it's a civil servant state. Can you hear that? Is civil servant, is that what you are supposed to call a state? So we have in this country, we have our resources like this. Our ego is like this. We want to be big. We want a big house. We want a lot of cars. And we don't have source of income. Well, I have on many occasions answered the issue of debt in the continent, in the country, and in my own state. But for the purpose of your question, I'm going to answer you directly. I am from Kaduna State, and I represented Kaduna in the 8th National Assembly as a senator representing Kaduna Central Senatorial District. And in that, I also come from Tutumoda. I was born inside Kaduna. We came to power in 2015. And when we took over office, Kaduna has an external debt of about $250 million that accumulated for over 3 decades. And now the governor of the state at that time, Erufai, who called himself Malam, sought for a World Bank loan of $350 million. And I was the chairman of Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debt. And by the Debt Management Act 2007, the National Assembly, the reps, and the Senate has to approve any loan, foreign loan, that a state aspires to get. So when the request was sent to the National Assembly by President Buhari, it is within our mandate to invite the states, beneficiaries of that loan, to come and explain to us. The explanation we wanted from them is, first of all, what is the debt status? You can't be highly indebted and you want to borrow more money. That's number one. Kaduna was indebted to $250 million. Number two, what do you want to do with the money? Number three, how and who are going to manage the money? Number four, how are you going to pay the money? You have to give me that answer one by one for me to consider whether you are eligible. I should approve your loan or not. The first question is, Kaduna is indebted $250 million. When you add 350, that is $600 million. Kaduna is not an oil producing state. 80% or 90% of our industries are dead. We virtually depend on federal allocation. So if I approve this $350 million and it becomes $600 million, how do we pay this money? That is one. They failed that test. Secondly, what are you going to do with the money? Urban renewal. You want to expand routes and put street light, put flowers, decorate the city. Okay. So if you do that, how will such pay that money? Street light, expanding roads inside the town is good. If you do it with your money. Can you borrow money, you, to furnish your house from a bank? Can you borrow money to expand your own residential building, make it flashy, change the lights, change the furnitures? Is that you as a person? Okay, this is what they want to do with the money. Thirdly, who are going to manage the money? The people to manage money are no more than 3 or 4 from what we have seen on the paper. So how can 3 to 4 people, the governor and his few cronies, manage 350 million? Why is the transparency there? They fail that. Then how will the money be paid? Okay, you want loan, is an opportunity, the interest is low. Yes, I know it's low interest loan. Okay. Loan is a loan. I asked the World Bank, are you giving us this money free? He said, no, this is loan, you have to pay. I said, all right. If we have to pay this money, this criteria has to be met. And they didn't meet the criteria. And I said, no money. And then our war started. I said, not under my watch will I oversee $350 million given to Kaduna State without a clear answer on how this money is going to be. Because I live there, my children will live there, my grandchildren will live there, and hopefully if I die, I'm going to be buried there. I don't want people pointing at my graveyard and say, this is the person who borrowed money. I am in my mid-50s. In vernacular, kwata kwata, if you add any more years to us, it's 25 years. We're gone. The last 25 years was 1997. So if you add another 25 years, that's all. We are finished. How will this money be paid? The governor went about unleashing propaganda against him. The people were told that I was denying them development in the state. Religious leaders were used, youths were used, a lot of propaganda campaign against my person. And I've denied communist because he was desperate to get the money and ignore all these questions. It's the money that matters to him. Okay. I was out of the Senate and he brought the person he wants to, and the money was approved to them by the 9th National Assembly. When Kaduna State borrowed $350 million after me, the exchange rate was 400 naira per dollar. Paying that money now is 1,200 naira per dollar. I don't know if what I have warned now in the past has come to life. The money will be serviced through deduction from our federal allocation. So if you borrowed money when it was 400 to a dollar, and then you are going to pay when it is 1,200 to a dollar, and your state is not earning dollar, it is being given money in naira, how much is going to remain for you to pay salary and execute other developmental projects? Okay, you have built roads, you have expanded road in the cities and built bridges. Okay, let the bridges pay and the road. Let them pay the money. The roads and the bridges does not generate money. $350 million. If it is invested in agriculture, if $350 million was invested in agriculture, by now you have seen agricultural activity and productivity, and then the profits from it can now be used to build roads, to build schools, to just provide employment opportunity, empower people, and do whatever you want. If you have invested $350 million to revive Kaduna industries, they will have employed thousands of people now. The industry will have been generating revenue for Kaduna to build roads and whatever. Now, you borrowed money to furnish your house, and now it's time to pay. Right now, Kaduna State is strangulated in debt, is stranded in debt, is emasculated in debt, in fact, is asphyxiated in debt. All because of the $350 million. We are now the second most indebted state in Nigeria. Lagos being the first. And for Lagos, all the headquarters of Nigerian banks are in Lagos. 70% of Nigeria's industries are in Lagos. Lagos is a maritime base. Even oil has been discovered in Lagos. It's the headquarters of Nigerian telecommunication established companies. It's the headquarters of Nigerian insurance companies. It's the headquarters of almost everything of the economy of Nigeria is headquarters. So they have borrowed money and they can pay money. When people say even America is in debt, the question you ask them is in debt in what? Is in debt? Are they indebted in naira and we are indebted in dollar? It's a dollar they can print if they want to pay their money. So it's just like you have 10,000 naira and you can borrow 10,000. And you also have a printing press that can print 40,000. No country can print US dollar, only United States. So they can print to pay. We have to sell to get money. We have to earn it. They don't need to if they want to. So you can see this is the story of Kaduna State. Apart from our political differences, but this is the main story. And right now, everything is at a standstill. All because we took money we cannot pay. We took money we have not invested where we should pay. When you build roads with money, you put toll gates. Does it? It's either you build roads to the farms, you build road to industries, you build road to mining fields. So you know that you are building road to an economic base. But when you build road within the towns, what are you doing? For people to be moving about with sports cars and bikes, power bikes, this is what we are. We are now enjoying the roads with a debt over our head. Well, we leave that for tomorrow. But I know that as long as I'm in politics, I can vie for any position I want to vie for. And in as much as when you are in position of authority, you are there to solve problems and not to lament over them. So I believe, but what I know very well is that whoever is going to take power in Kaduna State, or whoever is in power in Kaduna State, is dealing with a lot of problems as it is now. Let it be used wisely. If you borrow to invest, you know that that investment will pay the service debt. It's a good thing to do. But in Africa, if you borrow to build railways, is good. If you borrow to build housing projects, is also good. Borrow for industry, borrow for agriculture, is also good. As long as you know those things you are putting your money in can pay the money which you are borrowing. Borrow for water, it's good. So we have to be very careful. It's not everything, because as for lenders or creditors, they will always tell you there's available money for you. It's just like what happened during the COVID-19 era. The IMF told us that we have $3 billion for you to alleviate the problem. But you should have asked them, is it free? You said no. It's for you to borrow and share. Can sharing money. They brought this idea of cash NISA loans to people. They say it will boost medium and small scale industry. Now you don't have the medium were not boosted, the small scale industry are not boosted, and the money is not seen. Politicians shared money, credit accounts of people with money, and now they are paying the price for it. In Africa in general, there are two ways you get money. Either you borrow from China, you borrow from World Bank and IMF, or you have the Islamic Development Bank in Saudi Arabia from the Middle East. We should be very careful. There are things we can do ourselves. There are things that are necessary for us to borrow. If you are building a railway line from Mina to Abuja, you sit down, you do the costing. You can use the villagers and the unemployed in the states for the labor. And then for the technical aspect of it, you pay. Things that you can source from Nigeria, source it. All this now cut the cost of this load. In Africa, debt is a second form of slavery. Once a nation is indebted, it's like it's been enslaved. Even at personal and human level, any person who borrowed you money, you can't see him without greeting him. Sometimes if he's sick, you even go to his house. All because there is a bond between you. You can't afford to hurt him. You can also see him and think you are independent because you are tied to him based on, and that is how it also happens with the nations. To organizations for orphanages. We also constructed. We have bought a building which we gave for physical for empowerment and skill acquisition, and then we were able to sponsor some students outside the country and areas of education. Nigerians should continue to believe in themselves and hold their leaders to account. And leaders have to know very well that looking at what has happened in West African countries, if you mess up, this democracy is going to crash. And it's going to crash on the heads of everyone. So the earlier we learn from the mistakes of others, the better. We should do everything possible and make power beneficial to the common man, and do everything possible to avoid an uprising that will bring down the whole roof. Thank you very much.